I'm 50-50 on awkward introductions. Um, Sometimes when people ask me how I'm doing, I just do the I'm fine thing. And then other times I'm like, well, do you really want to know? Um, and sometimes that goes well, and sometimes they're like, that's way too much. 50-50. So we'll see how this goes. I want to be very honest with you this morning, and as I often tell our youth group, I promise to always be as honest with you as I can, although sometimes it doesn't work out in my favor, but that's okay. I mentioned last Sunday that the weeks surrounding Easter were extremely heavy for me. And I know that I wasn't the only one. Even with the beauty of spring and the color returning and all these flowers, we have so many irises in our front yard that I didn't even know irises turn those colors. Every day my wife's like, "Look, there's this one." And I was like, "I didn't even know that was planted there." But it still couldn't get through to me. All those quiet signs of goodness, and yet something still felt really dim and clouded, like the sun never fully came out. And yet, something in me kept saying, pay attention to this, right? Like, look closely, listen more, because if you follow what God's stirring here with you, then I guarantee you that if you're feeling it, other people are feeling it as well. Most of us have been there or will be there. That place where the light feels thin and the darkness seems to press in. Where the road ahead feels uncertain, where the questions that we push away during the day finally catch up to us at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'll admit I don't always hold things back, and sometimes I should hold certain things back. I tend to be pretty open, and maybe sometimes I shouldn't, but that's just me. So here's something. In my journal, the Sunday after Easter, or the Sunday afternoon of Easter, I was out walking, and I came home and I wrote, "What do you do when you are the one trying to hold everyone else together and you need to be held, but you're not sure who is there to hold you?" Anyone else resonate with that? You don't have to raise your hand. It's okay. Then in the margin I wrote, "Will we ever be okay?" And I know that might feel like a strange thing to say out loud here together, but here there's this common idea that many of us carry about faith and about people who are supposed to be faithful like pastors. We often assume that if we believe enough or trust enough or pray enough that we will feel secure, that everything will feel certain and held together. We expect that faith will feel steady and settled, and when it doesn't, when we feel unsure, when we feel worn down, when we feel unseen, we tend to then turn that feeling inward. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm not faithful enough. Maybe I'm not believing hard enough. Maybe I'm not trusting or praying enough. Maybe God feels distance because somehow I've been the one that's failed. Many of us were handed a kind of faith that depends on explanation. A sense that somewhere, someone is in control and that there is a plan and it will all work out. But when that kind of certainty begins to loosen, when life no longer fits inside those explanations, it can feel like everything is slipping or sifting like sand. I won't have you raise your hand. And yet what I've noticed in those times is not that what is underneath it all is slipping at all. What is slipping is only the idea we have of how we thought everything was supposed to play out. And I think that is an incomplete assumption about what a life of faith looks like. And not only do I think it's incomplete, I think it actively hurts and damages us. Because there's a distinction between believing or acknowledging somehow that we're held by God and actually experiencing something in us, something of us being held by God. Not a voice explaining things from above, giving us all the answers in unquiet and unsteady times, but a presence that is already here, beneath the thoughts and the questions and the worry and even the fear. The story we heard today, Luke 24, the road to Emmaus, is one of the most tender resurrection stories in all of Scripture. And yes, it does also read like Jesus is trolling his disciples. I think Jesus was really sarcastic, to be honest with you. I love sarcastic Jesus. I've had the privilege of teaching and preaching Luke 24 several times, and the thing that landed with me this week is that this story is about what happens when faith, belief, and hope disappoint us. It's a story about when the dark seems to be winning, when clarity fades just enough to make us unsure of the road ahead. The two disciples are leaving Jerusalem. Their teacher has been executed. Their community has been shaken. Their future has collapsed. And they say it plainly in one of the most honest lines in all of Scripture: we had hoped. Past tense. We had hoped. And they walk 7 miles along a dusty road with heavy hearts. I got a notification this week from my health app. It was like, A, you've been sleeping a lot better. B, you've been moving a lot lately. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. I think my walking has increased by like 2 miles a day. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. How many of you move when you get anxious? How many of you can't sit still, right? You can't concentrate. You gotta process, right? 7 miles. You got 7 miles to figure this out, guys. We imagine that all these post-resurrection appearances are dramatic and undeniable and overwhelming, but that's not what happens here. Instead, it's so strange. Jesus drew himself near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. Rude. They are not alone, but they do not recognize it yet. They can't see it. Not yet. And maybe this is closer to our lived experience than we want to admit. Because many of us have been taught that if God is present, then we should recognize it, we should feel it, it should comfort us. But what if sometimes the embrace of God feels like confusion that doesn't overwhelm us? Or grief that while it is heavy, it does not destroy us. Or a road that we keep walking even when we don't know how. What if the very fact that we are still here, still breathing, still searching, still able to tell the truth about our life and our experience is itself a kind of being held? Not in an obvious or dramatic way, but in a very, very real way. And so this is the first truth the Emmaus Road offers us. We are not alone, even when we cannot see it. And we don't always see with our eyes. There's a long tradition in Christianity that sees this a little differently than we often hear. And I have taken great solace in the Christian mystics over the past several years, who don't always describe God as a distant manager explaining our suffering from afar. German theologian Meister Eckhart, he once prayed, "I pray to God to rid me of God." Now that's not a rejection of faith. He was saying, I want to let go of every idea of God that I can control and understand. I pray to God to rid me of God. John of the Cross wrote about the dark night of the soul, a time when even the feeling of God seems to disappear, not as abandonment, but as an avenue to explore and connect with an even deeper form of reality, beyond certainty. And then Julian of Norwich spoke of God so deeply as the one who was woven into everything that not anything, not nothing, not even pain existed outside of God's presence. And when she said, "All shall be well," she was not predicting the future. She was naming something that she had come to see, that even in suffering there is a deeper reality. Not one that just promises to fix or erase pain, but one that promises to hold us within it. God is not far away watching from a distance. God is the one walking beside us on the road that we never wanted to take. God is the presence in which we already live and move and breathe, and there has never been a single moment where we were outside of that presence. And yet, sneaky Jesus. There's no humor in this manuscript, so I got to interject it somehow, or we're just going to be crying by the end of this thing. What are you guys talking about? What are you discussing? First of all, he doesn't say this. Hey, you guys look really sad. Everything's going to work out. He says, hey, what's happening? Tell me what's going on. And he keeps pace beside them. And they begin their story, and they say, well, we had hoped. We had hoped. And the second truth of this story is just important as the first. Our pain matters. Your pain matters. Our pain matters. See, God does not rush past our grief. God does not silence our disappointment. God does not correct our emotions. Instead, our God listens. And here is the quiet, almost unbearable irony of this story. They are explaining the death of Jesus to Jesus. And that's funny. Until you think of all the times you tried to explain your pain to Jesus, as if you understood it better than the one walking alongside you. The one who knows most deeply what happened, and yet he's still the one who listens most. What are you talking about? Well, we had hoped, and that didn't end the way we thought it was going to. And we got a lot of questions right now on this road. And we're not sure what to do with all of those things. And I love the part where Jesus looks them in the eye and says, your pain is all part of God's plan. Oh, do we skip that? Hey, let me offer you something pastorally, just a word of advice. And you can disagree with me, that's fine. God is in control, is terrible counseling for anyone whose life is falling apart. Sometimes in our desire to protect God's sovereignty, we end up describing a God who explains away our suffering more than the one who shares it. We strap on that God's way is not our way lens of seeing the world. And while that kind of language is often well-intentioned, when I am struggling, keep this in mind, when I'm struggling, I don't want to hear about a God who acts like a manager of celestial events more than a companion in my suffering. Luckily, that's not the God that Jesus reveals. Jesus reveals not a detached God, but a God who has entered grief, who knows abandonment, and who just 3 days prior to this encounter cried out, "Why have you forsaken me?" Our God is not a God who watches, let alone inflicts our pain. Ours is a God who feels it. And that changes something. Because if God feels the world's pain, then our pain, then your pain, then our pain is not invisible. It is not insignificant, and it is not something that any of us must minimize in order to appear faithful. Our pain matters because we matter. Your pain matters because you matter. And now at some point, Jesus begins to reinterpret their story, and I long for that. Even a little bit, right? Throw a plot twist my way every now and then. He walks them through the scriptures. He reframes what they thought they understood. But notice the order. First, he listens, then he speaks. This matters because it reshapes the questions that we bring to God. We want to know, will things be okay? Will this resolve? Will this ever make sense? How many of you have been tired lately? My goodness. This isn't helping. I almost said, bring these lights up. People are going to fall asleep. I think a lot of our tiredness and our exhaustion, part of what exhausts us is the feeling to have to know everything in an online world where your phone's yelling at you as soon as you wake up. Good job. Here's 6 emails. Or you can't quiet that one thread of chat that just keeps going off until 9:30 at night. A few of you get what I'm talking about. Thanks for laughing. Here's the thing, though. A lot of our exhaustion comes from the fact that we keep reaching ahead into the future, trying to make our future certain, trying to make our future safe. And this is such a difficult truth because we want to know things are going to be okay. And we want a real concrete sense of our future. We want to know that our story ends well, and yet that kind of knowing is never given to us. Never. You don't know, and you cannot know how this ends. And that's where another kind of a knowing has to emerge. Not about what will happen, but what is already here. A quiet sense that even without answers, we are not outside the presence of divine love. In psychology, there's this concept called fusion. It's when we get so caught up in our thoughts that we can't tell the difference between our anxieties and our worries and the part of us that notices them, right? We confuse our thoughts for our reality. And when we go that long and we walk that road, then all of a sudden our thought becomes our identity. It goes from I feel worried to I am always worried. I am a worrier. Right? There's a big gap there. We can learn to step back and notice our thoughts instead of being carried by them. And when we do this, we can treat them with the care and the kindness. There's nothing wrong with being anxious. There's nothing wrong with being scared. There's nothing wrong with being confused. There's nothing wrong with having worries. They deserve our tenderness and our kindness. But when they take control, then we end up in a whole other story. I did not talk to you about this at all, but I want to read this and you'll see what just happened a second ago. Think of a sky during a storm. The clouds may be dark and the wind loud, the rain heavy, but the sky itself has not disappeared. Now, we can talk aviation later, but my point is our thoughts, our emotions are the storms that exist within us, but they are not us. There's something steady within us even now, not because everything is certain, but because part of you, the part of you that notices, the part of you that might be scared, it just remains untouchable by all of the storm. So as the two disciples walk along, they're talking with Jesus, and Jesus is listening, and something begins to change. And yet they don't get all the answers that they wanted, and nothing is particularly explained or fixed, at least for them, right? Like, they do turn around, they go back, they share the good news of what they've experienced, but there's still a lot of road to travel. And yet they are able to say, were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road? Their hope quietly shifts from the past tense to a fragile kind of new aliveness. This proves that something within us can come alive again before the questions of our lives are resolved. That it is possible for there to be warmth even in the middle of the coldness of uncertainty. And when they reach their destination, Jesus does something unexpected again. He walks on as if he were going without them. And I was like, why? He doesn't invite himself in. He doesn't force the next moment. He just leaves space. The kind of loving presence that we are talking about isn't about control. It doesn't take over your life and force every decision for you. It doesn't fix everything from a distance or guarantee outcomes. It simply promises to walk alongside you and gently wait to be welcomed in. And these two disciples say, "Stay with us." And he does. And they sit at a table together. And he takes bread and he blesses it and he breaks it and he gives it to them. And in that moment, their eyes are finally opened. Not with a miracle, not with a sign or an explanation. Their eyes are opened in the most ordinary human act imaginable, sharing food, receiving something as simple as a gift of hospitality. And then, just as suddenly, Jesus vanishes. That feels real too, though, doesn't it? All right, let's wrap this up. What does this mean? What do we do with this? I think this matters for how we see ourselves and one another. Many of us are the ones who hold others together. Spouses, parents, caregivers, teachers, nurses. We are the steady ones, the listeners. This church is made up of people who show up. And eventually, we get tired. Not just physically tired, but deeply, quietly tired, and we start to wonder, well, who holds me? This story points us to something important. The recognition of God's presence, of divine love, or the Christ does not happen alone. It happens at a table. Which means that part of how we answer this question of who holds me, of how are we held, a very big part of that answer is that we hold each other through each other. Support it's not just an idea. It shows up in faces and in the voices that ask us even imperfectly, what do you need? And you don't have to carry this alone. So, I think all of us are on a road, probably. Our own roads, maybe parallel. But as a church, we're on a pretty significant road together as well. And all those little stories intersect. And being held looks like someone walking beside us. It looks like someone listening to our grief. It looks like the conversations that slowly start to bring warmth back into our heart. It looks like the simple acts of sharing duct tape fish with our littlest among us. And in those moments, something true becomes visible. not perfectly and not all at once, but in a real, meaningful way. So take a moment and ask yourself a few questions this morning. Where in your life are you saying, I had hoped? Yeah, I had hoped. Where has disappointment settled in? Maybe even threatening to take you from, I feel unsettled, I feel disappointed, to like, I'm bitter. Where are you tired of being strong? Now, those are hard questions, but these last two are maybe even a little bit harder. Where might support already be near, even if you haven't noticed it yet? And what if the next step is to simply say to someone, stay with me? The hope here is not that everything will be explained or fixed. It's simply that you are seen, and that your pain matters, and that your choices matter, and that even in an uncertain world, love is still at work. So Chestnut Grove, hold on to this, even if it feels fragile. You are not alone. And we are not alone. And we never have been. Even now, especially now, divine love is moving towards us, moving towards you. It is listening and waiting and meeting us where we are, even when our hope might still feel past tense. And yet somehow even this is enough to take the next step. So might I be so bold as to say, find the face of someone beside you. Maybe a hand. Give it a squeeze. And if you can, maybe ask these words out loud and also hear them from your neighbor. Will you stay with me as we walk together? And if you don't have someone in your life like that, then we invite you, trembling, unsure, doubtful, and hurt, to walk along with us here at Chestnut Grove for however long you need to feel held. May it be so. Amen.